I became vegan my last year of college. I had been thinking about how humans treat animals. I had read the book Animal Liberation and seen some information from people for the ethical treatment of animals, how animals are treated, and I just decided I didn't want to support that kind of cruelty to animals any longer, so I slowly but surely became vegan, and I was concerned about the health aspects of it at first because back in this was the late 80s, there wasn't a lot known about vegan nutrition, at least most people didn't know much about it. So I did some research and found out that it would be healthy to be vegan, and I went vegan. I lost about 10 pounds, which I wasn't heavy to begin with, but it was my body fat percentage went down, and I felt good. I was an athlete. I was an All-American pole vaulter in college, and so that seemed to help my vaulting actually at the time. And then I think a vegan diet has really worked well for me over the years. I have not gained any unnecessary weight, or my cholesterol level's always been very low, and so it's done well for me. The main thing as an athlete, especially if you're a strength or speed athlete, is to make sure you're just getting enough protein to maintain your muscle mass or increase it if that's what you're trying to do. It's not hard to do at all. I actually eat about 10 grams of protein powder each day in a smoothie, but I don't know that that's really necessary. I kind of just want to make sure I get enough. Now I know many bodybuilders eat way more protein than that, and there are many vegan sources of protein powder. A lot of bodybuilders like hemp protein and other types rather than soy. But then the other thing is creatine. There have been studies that have shown that vegetarian athletes can benefit from creatine, and more so than meat-eating athletes. There is creatine, and most meat eaters get a certain amount of creatine each day, and vegans don't get any creatine. So I take creatine as well. It's been studied pretty thoroughly and found to be safe, and I don't think it's anything that vegan athletes have to do by any means, but I do think it helps me a bit, so I keep with it. Other than that, there's not really anything else that vegans need to be worried about in terms of being an athlete. Premenopausal women who are endurance athletes have to be concerned about iron, but that's true of all athletes, whether they're female athletes, whether they're vegan or not. Iron is found in small amounts in most plant foods. So like spinach is a very good source of iron, whole grains, oatmeal. Just about any plant food has a small amount of iron. But the one trick is to absorbing the iron in plant foods is to have vitamin C with the iron, so with the meal. So either a glass of orange juice, or by eating a food that is high in vitamin C, such as cauliflower or potatoes, is another way. And then calcium. So yeah, calcium can be an issue for vegan diets. If one survey showed that half the vegans in the survey were getting less than 525 milligrams of calcium a day, and that's about half the RDA. And those vegans were found to have higher rates of bone fracture. So it is an important issue. And I encourage vegans to get calcium either by eating large amounts of leafy greens each day, and that would include broccoli, kale, collard greens, and a number of other greens. It doesn't include lettuce. Lettuces aren't high in calcium. And unfortunately, the calcium in spinach isn't well absorbed. So you either need to do that on a daily basis, or I recommend fortified non-dairy milk or a calcium supplement if you don't want the non-dairy milk. The way to base whether you're eating enough calories or not is basically on whether you're losing body weight or strength. And if you're not, then you're probably eating enough calories and enough protein. And I think that athletes, raw food athletes actually, I think, have an advantage over non-athlete raw foodists, because by being an athlete you can consume a lot more calories because you're spending so much more energy, and that allows you to get more protein, more of the amino acids from the foods you eat, because you're simply eating more food. I am concerned to some extent about raw foodists getting enough of the amino acid lysine, which is found mainly in legumes, but some raw foodists eat a lot of sprouted legumes and some don't. But that is one thing to be concerned about. But in terms of how do you know if you're getting enough nutrition if you're an athlete, is you want to base it on performance. And there's also the issue of whether if you're overtraining or not. So if you're feeling fatigued, it could be nutrition, it could be overtraining. And it's not that easy to gauge. You can go online and find calorie calculators to determine how many calories you need. And then I actually have a website called pcounter.com where you can create days worth of menus and look at the calorie and protein and all the vitamins and mineral content of what you've been eating. So that's one way to go about it.